Man. Ristas Tovis Lilitor Sin Zeldrizes Jimmy Jordan.
Well, damn.
Nigga, you speak High Valyrian?
Look, man. Yeah, I speak a little bit, man, just a taste. You know, I don't know if y'all know this, but HBO had hooked up with Duolingo and they offer, a High Valyrian course. So I filled out did a few lessons. But what I just said was hello everyone and welcome to the House of the Dragon.
Yes, sir.
So it's been some years, man. Been a long time coming. Um, there's something everybody been waiting on, man. Especially after that letdown of season 8 of Game
I
of
knew you
Thrones.
knew
So,
you was gonna go
Man.
there.
hey, man,
Man.
they gave me trust issues
Hey,
with
it's
the
a
way
lot of
they
people
finished
that
off.
don't want to watch the show because of season 8. So
Exactly. But episode 1 came and went, and it was pretty dope, man.
what y'all
Yeah.
thinking? First impressions? What we thinking?
So I'm gonna start with you, CJ. Let you give your first impression, and then I'm gonna say mine. Then Carson, you the most seasoned vet of the group, so I'm gonna let you close it out.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure. Don't call it a comeback, baby. Them thrones is them thrones is here for real. Like it gave me the elements that I needed to feel that made me a fan of the show to begin with. It gave you intrigue. You could clearly see positioning very early on. You could see that that there were going to be lines drawn. It gave you enough action from the sequences of the jousting session, uh, and it was tough decisions being made in the very first episode. And so you're seeing strengths, you're seeing weaknesses. You even saw really good character development with people like Corliss, uh, with Rhaenyra, and so on and so forth. And so I'm really looking forward to the show. I was excited by it. It was a renewed excitement that I kind of lost in the last maybe 5 episodes of Game of Thrones, and I think they were very intentional about making sure that they gave us what we were used to,
Yeah.
and I love the way it looked too. The aesthetic was beautiful.
So let me just say this, man. First and foremost, Otto trash. Damon is trash. Damon a wild boy, man. Like,
Yeah,
That
he
was crap.
creepy. He
bruh,
was from the very
when
first
they
scene. He was
pulled
creepy.
up, on King's Landing, I thought it was the LAPD.
Damn, damn,
Like
man.
them boys is wild, man.
Boy.
Like it was, like you said, CJ, you could already see the beginnings of lines being drawn and you know who's gonna be with who. Like Otto and Corliss, you can already tell it's gonna be some smoke with them.
Man.
You
Yeah,
know. Now I hadn't read the book yet, but it seemed like they already got a pass, dog. So you know, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And one thing that I did peep too, and it was subtle, but when you look at Rhaenyra's, how her best friend would look at her sometime, like it seemed like she ain't really real with her either. So maybe a hint of jealousy. I don't know, man.
she
But
might be her father daughter. You know what I'm saying? She might
we
be
go.
her father daughter.
So go
I'm,
ahead,
I'm gonna let
CJ.
Carter. No, I was actually gonna ask you. I mean, like the dismissiveness of Otto toward Corliss. I mean, I
I
don't know. It was giving me a slight
I
microaggression, bro.
think that's more to do with Corliss's relationship with Damon.
Yeah.
They have a strong relationship from battles
Okay.
that I'm assuming the show is gonna get into. They talked about the stepstones and I think the battle that was going over there with Kragus, who they called the Crab King for the way he had issued out punishment. And so Corliss and Damon have been through that fire together. So you notice a couple of times right off when they're talking about succession, Corliss is like, Damon, like, what are we talking about? Like, it's Damon, like, So I think they're gonna get into more of that as we go. because like you said, CJ, those lines are being drawn. But right off the bat, I was really impressed with the fact that I wasn't expecting to see King Jaehaerys. You know, those first 2 to 3 minutes, we got a glimpse at. A lot of people don't know who that is. King Jaehaerys was the longest reigning king in Westeros, longer than Aegon, longer than Robert Stark, obviously, Baratheon. I mean, you know, so they called him the Old King. He had like a 50, 60-year reign, and so that opening scene, we see the ruins of Harrenhal, which was dope because you see how like vast it is. So you see the Great Hall at King's Landing, but then we open up with the Great Hall at Harrenhal, and you see how large it is, how vast it was. Because Black Heron, who was the king at the time, that was his claim to fame. You know, Harrenhal, his walls, how big they were. But
I thought you said Aaron Hall.
And nah, Harrenhal. But that goes back to Aegon the Conqueror, and Balerion the Black Dread, who I got my name after because I'm extremely light skinned, so I'm Balerion the light skinned Dread. But that goes back to Aegon conquering Harrenhal, and you see the ruins, you see how glorious it still is, how big it still is. So it's the only castle that they could fit over 1,000 lords in. They call that the Great Council of 101 because they're basically voting on the succession of King Jaehaerys in his older age. And you see right there, they're setting the stage they're basically already saying a woman can't be queen. So they're setting the stage of what's to come. You see Rhaenys, who was the wife of Corlys at the time, and she had a legitimate claim to the throne. She was the eldest grandchild of Jaehaerys. And the lords basically came together and said, nah, bro, fuck that.
So listen, like you breaking it down for us, and to kind of touch on one of the comments we got from Kendra Milligan. First of all, thank you for coming. But she said that she loved the amount of history that was given, you know, on the show.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we get on here and see you breaking it down too. You know, you George Martin light skin with history.
The light skin dread.
Yeah. So shout out to that. And then we got Kendra, who also said that when we was talking about Damon, she said we all got a Damon in our family.
Man, look, I'm talking about you. I could feel the hater on Damon, man. Immediately, he had a Joffrey ass face to me. You know what I'm saying? When I saw him, I said, "Damn, that go to Joffrey."
Listen,
you know what I'm saying?
I have this love. I'm not gonna say love hate. The character Damon is very intricate, though. I will say that. Without getting into too much, his character is very intricate. It's gonna be dope to see what he brings to the table. Though.
It sounds like you have a respect for him.
I do. I have a healthy respect for him, but I also am fully aware of what he's capable of. If that makes sense. I'm
gonna tell you this. I thought he was gonna kill old boy Cole. I thought he was gonna sneak him after he was defeated.
Kristen Cole, a motherfucker, man. Like he ain't no.
Yeah.
Kristen Cole about that action.
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, like he was defeating the Baratheons and the Targaryens, you know what I mean, in hand-to-hand combat. So evidently, it's something to him. One thing that I did like, Tyrus, that was a wrinkle that I enjoyed there being slight narration in the beginning because that wasn't something that we have. At least I tried to like jog back my memory to all of the episodes of Game of Thrones I ever seen, and I don't really remember there being a narrator. And it sounds like Ray. Now I be mixing their names up. Y'all help me out. Okay, Rhaenyra is the narrator.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That was Rhaenyra in the beginning. That was the older version of her too, though. So that was that was the older version of Rhaenyra.
Right.
Narration.
So clearly we know she gonna be around long enough to be telling the damn story.
Right.
So that's but man, that's a lot of stuff to get into. I don't want to take us off track. So I'm gonna pass it back to you so we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
So, man, it's so much to deal with. You know, one thing that stuck out for me, man, and it grossed me out immediately, was that there's like this. Damon gave me R. Kelly vibes, dog.
Man, bro, I thought it was just me, man. That's like creepy, bro.
But for lack of a better, term, like the way he, looked at his niece and touched it. I mean, we all know the history of the Targaryens and how, they
get down.
How they get down, But like seeing him, and I mean, and it was like just that quick, just seeing that one scene, man, and it was crazy.
I'm glad you
I
picked up on that
yeah.
because this is definitely something to that. You know, like there's
Okay.
Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, George R. Martin. It's all intentional. Everything is intentional. There's nothing that happens by mistake. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks.
So like those little intricacies, all that stuff matters.
Even where he met her, right? He met her in the Iron Throne, right?
Sitting
At the
on it.
sitting on the Iron Throne, he met her in the room,
Mhm.
and I even thought it was interesting that he had passed through the Red Keep to get to the Iron Throne. Because
Right.
I mean, you know, like I just the Red Keep has played a big role in a lot of the deception that has taken place along the, you know, along the way. And so I just thought it was I thought it was cool that that they were kind of giving us those type of foreshadowing type of moments in that instance. But yeah, he definitely gave big groomer vibes, man. I wasn't
Caleb.
really feeling, yeah, I wasn't feeling the whole exchange of the necklace or any
Right.
of that.
Yeah.
So like we had Caleb in the comments. First comment, he said that Damon 100% likes young girls, and we could definitely see that. And for him, you know, he also said that it was problematic the way he said and when he said turn around. Like
Yeah, yeah, that
that,
was yeah,
He was definitely looking at her with the Birdman hand rub.
yeah,
right,
man. It
You
was
know,
yeah,
he Birdman hand rubbing it at Rhaenyra big time. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Like I'm sitting on the couch watching with my wife, and that's the first thing she said. Like, yo, this nigga is creepy uncle for real.
but
And
we ain't
she
finna act. We ain't. I mean, that shit was wild. I mean, I'm not being dismissive about it because it was extremely wild. But that was not near about close to the craziest shit Damon did in that episode. Like, come
like
on, bro. Come on, dog.
the man was
Like,
wild.
like, I mean, so y'all help me understand. Because I will, you know, between all of us, I know that I'm probably the least knowledgeable. But I know that Damon being over the City Watch, is that similar to the Night's Watch, or is that, can y'all like kind of give me some
That's
better?
the you know, that's basically the police of King's Landing. That's
Okay.
the City Watch was originally created by Jaehaerys's wife or queen, the good Queen Allison at the time. Now
Okay.
they weren't to the degree that that they are now.
Yeah.
Damon is very much the reason of why the gold cloaks are the gold cloaks. He gave them the gold cloaks that you see on the left shoulder. So
Okay.
he's who brought that to the table. He is the reason that they are basically policing the city now in the manner that they are, you know, policing the city.
I see. Um, you know, I wasn't expecting what I mean. Game of Thrones is taking us many places as far as how they take people out in the episode, but you know, I would say that City Watch scene took it to
That
another
shit was
level.
dope to me because
Yeah.
it was relevant to how they dealt with punishment. You
Mhm.
steal, you lose a hand.
So
You know, you rape, you losing your
You
ball.
lose.
You
right,
losing your ball. You know,
we saw that.
like
Man.
that is, man.
So,
Yeah.
so we got a question for you, Carlton, from Brittany Alex Lewis, and she asks, so is it not the King's Guard?
No, King's Guard and City Watch is two totally different things. The King's Guard is only 7 nights. The King's Guard is the 7 best knights in Westeros. So you know there's a selection of the King's Guard specifically to guard the king, and that's all they do. All they do is guard the king.
Right.
Yeah,
So
City
some
Watch,
of those
that's
guys.
basically the, like you said, City Watch is the LAPD, man. TK,
Yeah.
you nailed that shit.
Hey,
Some of
hey,
those
nah,
guys that was
they
standing with
pulled up and didn't ask no questions, just start hitting.
Rape
yeah.
up.
Some of the guys that were standing with him when he was when they were in the Iron Throne, when he was talking to
When Viserys
Damon.
and Damon were
Yeah.
talking. Yeah,
Those were some of the
that's
King's
the King's
Guard, right?
Guard, which I'm sure at that point, I don't think you could see all of them on screen. They may have had like 5 of them in the room and like 2 standing at the door. So like,
Okay.
you know, when you watch Game of Thrones, like season 1, when Robert is in his chambers with the hose and Jamie is standing outside the door. Jamie was one of the King's Guard.
Yeah.
You know, so like I said, that's the 7 best knights put together specifically to guard the king. Which that came about because of an assassination attempt on Aegon the Conqueror. So like way back in the conquest, there was an attempt on Aegon's life. So Aegon created the King's Guard.
Okay. So man, there's so much to get into, Tires. I want to get into all of it. I took notes, dog.
I got notes
Alright.
too. I got notes and I still don't even know where to take this because I'm just
Yeah.
it's still it's rolling around in my mind.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna let y'all, do what y'all got to do because while y'all taking notes, I was taking shots.
Okay.
I'm gonna defer to y'all.
Yeah.
Man, what about the impossible decision, bro? I mean,
Oh,
like the
God.
whole thing that set up the whole impossible decision, and
Bro,
you can break down what that is.
I'll say this as a father and as being in the room, watching the birth of my first and only child. That shit was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Because I'll just say this, as black people, black women statistically don't get the same medical care
Yeah.
as counterparts.
Yeah.
But you also see in that scene how women back during that time, they were child bearers,
Yeah.
okay, kill your wife, keep the child. And it was almost, I won't say it was an easy decision for Viserys, but you can see how much he wanted that son. So he basically was like, look, man,
He was willing to do
get the
anything.
babe out. He's holding her hand. They're pulling the babe out. And I'm like, damn, yo, that's wild, man. That's wild to make that decision. I don't think I could personally make that decision.
And in the future, I hope that we have women on the show to talk about some of these things with us as well. I mean, like all of the issues, but absolutely even these aspects of things. But you could see it kind of the conversation that she was having with Rhaenyra in the beginning of with her daughter on the bedside, saying, that essentially we are childbearers. This is what we do. And she's like, no, I want to be right.
To refer to it as a royal womb is like that's all that they look at them as. Like you are here to bear heirs to the throne, and that's it. Right. That's wild. That's a wild take.
And she responds back, I'd rather be a knight. I want to fly my dragon. I want to be a knight. She want to be in the field. And
she wanted to get her Arya Stark on.
Right. So it's setting up that, like she about that life type of,
speaking of which, to backtrack, what y'all was it predictable that in the opening scene when you first see the cloud that somebody was coming through on the dragon? Was I the only one that was like, where the dragon is?
Yeah, I was definitely looking for a dragon. I mean, I was definitely looking for a dragon at that point. But the dragons, I mean, like the visuals really did look good. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to that. I mean, like, but you definitely saw the setup of the struggle of, like you said, the woman being a childbearer, and you saw it with the conversation she had with Viserys when she talked about losing 5 children in 10 years.
Yes.
Man.
Right.
That was hard.
Like she was like, I'm still mourning my children that we, that I miscarried. But the moment that he finally gets a son, he has to choose between a son and his wife, and then he only has the son for a few moments.
Few hours.
Like so he lost his wife and his son.
Right. Now, before we move on from this, I kind of want to acknowledge some of the people in the comments.
Yes,
you got Kendra Milligan. She said you choose the wife.
Always.
He was pressed to present an heir, so he made that choice. And and I agree with her. My wife does as well. Like we were sitting there watching it, and she was like, you choose the wife. Another comment, and I appreciate the latest chiming in. This is so dope. But you had Janae Hayes, Jean Baptiste. She said, as a mother, that was hard to watch.
Tough. That was tough.
And then you got my boy Jason Goins. He chimed in and said that was extremely hard to watch.
Oh yeah, that whole scene
was.
Yeah,
it was tough, man. I think that's why they intertwined it with the scenes from the tournament, because like it would have been hard to watch that straight through. So as hard as it was strategic how they, gave you some scenes from the tournament and then came back and gave you some of the scenes from the earliest known Caesarean section we've ever seen.
Yeah, man.
And to touch on, what you said earlier, Carson, about, the royal womb, Nikki Norwood chimed in. even as a queen, she is looked at as lesser than
Definitely.
because she's a woman.
Definitely.
And that sets up all of the ways that the women were treated. Like there's no women at the table as counsel.
None.
Even Rhaenyra is a cup bearer for the
Cupbearer.
king, right? She pouring their drinks in there, right? And you got Rhaenyra. Did I say it right? Rhaena,
Which one? You talking the queen that never was?
the queen that never was.
Rhaenys.
Well, that's a hell of a nickname, dog.
Rhaenys, right?
Rhaenys.
So you got Rhaenys, who was supposed to be what Rhaenyra will now become. And y'all got to bear with me. I'm gonna get these names right.
Bro, I told you them names
you know-
will have you all over the place, especially if you're a few cups in.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying with the names, but you saw that the queen that never was really the rightful heir to the throne initially, before they had the great council. And Viserys, who people actually see as technically a weak king and who is physically becoming weaker as we speak. I'm sure we'll learn more about his infection or illness that we saw, or talk more about that. But I mean, I think that's why they were pressing as well.
Yeah.
But you see very clearly like that during this time, men are very dismissive of women and their abilities.
Yeah.
So
because Rhaenys at the time of that great council, like I said, you had 1,000 lords that gathered at Harrenhal, and nobody was in favor of Rhaenys. So that kind of gives you an idea of how women were looked at during that time, obviously. And she had the strongest claim. She was the eldest child of, I think it's Jaehaerys's oldest son, I think it's something like that. So she had the strongest claim. But like you said, CJ, they went with the option that was looked at as weaker because he was a male, Wow.
Yeah. That's. I mean, it is when you really think about it. And I thought that the scene where Baratheon refers to her as the queen that never was, and you have Otto say to Viserys, you could have Baratheon's tongue for that.
Bro, that was so disrespectful.
Right? And Viserys responds back to Baratheon, tongues don't rule thrones or something like that.
Let them wag, basically.
Right. Like, but I think what we all know about Game of Thrones is that's the opposite of true, right? Is the person that's wearing the crown ain't always necessarily the person who's ruling the throne.
Right.
I mean, we could say that Cersei Lannister in Game of Thrones was probably, she ran King's Landing for a long time, even though she didn't.
Littlefinger ran everybody.
Littlefinger, exactly.
Cersei was pulling strings even while Robert Baratheon was still alive.
Yes.
Like she pulled so like.
And so
bad bitch, dog.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's like you hear a lot of the mistakes that's being made as well as the strategies that's being set up. People who don't believe that a tongue can rule the throne or that a tongue can bring down a kingdom might not be fit to be king because they don't have their guard up in the way that you probably got to have your guard up to rule the Iron Throne.
And check that comment there, TK, because
as a counterpoint, we got Gina Bridges, and she said the princess as cupbearer is in the room when policy is made. Viserys was smart in doing that,
and that was calculated. Viserys, I don't know if they'll speak to this, but in the book, Viserys took a lot of slack for having her in the room. Like the council didn't want her there. But you'll even notice, though, within the council, there's Viserys, obviously the king, Otto, the hand of the king, Corlys, who is the master of ships. And those are really the three prominent voices in the council. The Maester really don't speak too much. Lord Strong had like 2 lines the whole episode. And then there's the other cat that's really just sitting there. So it's really just the bickering between Corlys and Otto you see a lot of the times in the council, with Viserys overseeing basically everything that's being said, but they really manipulated him the whole time.
I could understand that, and I think it's for people who don't understand. Otto is married to Rhaenys. Did I say it right?
Which you said
No,
Corliss and
Corliss
Rhaenys?
is right.
Corliss is married to
Right,
and the queen who never was.
Right.
right.
And
And
so
before you go on, let me just say,
okay,
it was so dope seeing them little brown skinned children sitting up front.
it was.
You
Hey,
know,
you know I'm about them light skins.
hey,
When they were holding hands, I mean, like I didn't know. I was wondering if that was alluding to something down the line, like maybe they play a significant role somewhere down the line. I don't know, but
Yeah.
um,
but
I,
my bad. Go ahead with your point, CJ.
oh, you fine. But essentially, I suppose that Corliss and Damon's appreciation for one another, like you outlined, Carlton, is the fact that they are military men, and essentially that's where that respect and allegiance comes from. And I don't know if Viserys is a military has a military background or anything, but he and Otto seem to be more thinkers than fighters,
Yeah.
and so that might be where that allegiance lies. But I would say that Otto, uh, if Damon is the outright, wide open, uh, you know, obvious loose cannon that's that you got to keep an eye on because of what he shows the ability to be capable of, then Otto is the one you got to keep an eye on because he doesn't show what he has the ability to be capable of unless you're really paying attention to it. And so I kind of wanted to get into I think he's more dangerous personally than Damon is.
Well, like you said, man, like you going back to Game of Thrones, the one that did the most talking, that did the most manipulating, was oftentimes the most dangerous. You made a reference about Otto reminding you of Littlefinger, and that's correct. If not worse, like Otto is pulling the strings. You can see immediately, even during the Great Tournament, he got word immediately that Queen Aemma had passed during child labor. And so you can see him coming back, whispering, talking to people. He was already spinning his wheels. Like, make no mistake about it. Everything that Otto does is calculated, but it's calculated for his own gain. He tries to make it as if it's all for the good of the realm. Otto is about them high towers, dog. It's all about Otto.
Seemed like it. I mean, he even sent his daughter like in the immediacy, like
Immediate.
man. I mean, the man, wife, like literally just getting back inside.
Man.
And he told his daughter to go put her mama dress on, and go,
comfort him.
Go comfort the king. And I'm like, wow, that again shows this calculating, and it shows that his daughter is with it. Like his daughter's gonna do what her dad directs her to do.
Yeah.
Tyrus, you on mute.
Once again, we talking Otto. We Gina Bridges chimed in. Otto is raw dog, wrong for pimping Allison.
Bro, like from jump, told that girl, man, go in there and talk to that man.
Yeah, like dog, that's a cold piece right there, man.
Yeah.
And for me, that showed me he don't give a damn about King Viserys. He don't give a damn about his grief, his pain, his hurt, the queen. All he care about is getting himself positioned to where he can be better than where he at.
Yeah. I mean, you see immediately when they get back to the council, you see him talking about it. Like that was the first thing he wanted to discuss.
Yeah. And you saw Viserys kind of push back on it.
Right.
But to no avail, because Otto just kept it moving. Like
they still about that succession.
Yeah,
like nigga, you hurting, but look, I ain't trying to hear that.
But listen, even then, like you see Corliss speaking his piece basically back in Daemon, because again, Corliss and Daemon had that history together. And Otto is fully aware of the history of the Council of 101, which I believe, again, at the time, I think Otto was also the hand of King Jaehaerys at the time. So he's fully aware of that history of that great Council of 101 was only 10 years previous to what we're seeing in the show. So he's aware that the lords of Westeros are not going to back a female heir. So there's a reason he is saying, hey, let's go with Rhaenyra. Like it's all calculated. It's by design, you know, because
Right.
he knows the pushback that's gonna get. So you can already kind of see the lines being drawn in the sand. Like
Yeah.
this dude is trying to set something up for himself. So he sends his daughter in here. He like, look, if I can get you with an heir, that immediately puts us in power. So
Yeah.
it's crazy,
Right.
man.
Right. So let me ask y'all this. The king's wounds coming one from the Iron Throne. Like the Iron Throne literally potentially being the death of him. All the way down to when we see at the end
Mm-hmm.
the jagged edges of the Iron Throne, right, scars his hand and he starts to
Yeah.
bleed.
Yeah.
Uh, my question is because I may not have been paying, I may have been taking notes. Who all knows about his injuries, and the who who on of his council knows about those injuries, and where do you think that's going to go
I
as
think,
far
you
as
know, just judging from the show, I think it's just like his maesters, Malos, the Grand Maester, and like the guys that are immediately under him. I don't think any of like the his small council knows.
okay,
And then that cut that we see at the end on the finger, I don't think anybody else noticed that, but that is an omen. It's said that if that Iron Throne cuts you, if you bleed on it, that's a bad omen. So
oh, okay,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
But you just a fountain of
I'm a geek for this dog.
information.
I'm so engulfed in this fire and blood. Like you see, I ain't have a fire and blood shirt, but I had to break out my Bruce Lee versus Muhammad Ali because I had the dragon
Dragon,
on here. And, you
I
know,
see.
you give me some dragons, I'm gonna put my glasses on and geek out.
I know Leslie gonna pull up in a little while,
Oh,
Yeah.
man, I can't wait to hear Les takes.
so I know he probably doing his
So
takes right now.
Yeah,
so for me, you know, seeing what's going on with that throne. First of all, nigga, I'm finna have somebody just build me a love seat. You know,
hey,
you keep
cut
getting
it,
cut.
man. I don't need all that.
Right, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, and it
like
shit.
you keep
Hey,
getting
speaking
cut.
of which, what do we think about the you know, the addition of the blades? Because you know, of course, it's supposed to be, what is it, 1,000 swords that make up the throne. So like in Game of Thrones, it obviously didn't have all the extra swords surrounding it. In House of the Dragon, you see all the extra swords surrounding the throne. What do we like that? Is that a yay? Is that tacky? Is it like, you know, what's up?
I, I personally, I like that they, to me they did everything a little bit bigger
Yeah,
than Game of Thrones. I guess technology and all that shit
Well,
is, you know,
they did have a bigger budget and a
they
bigger
definitely got a
CGI
bigger
budget.
budget.
yeah.
So
They
I
they
heard it was like 20 million an episode. What I
that's a
read.
Stranger Things budget right there. Like, like,
It
uh,
came with it. They
yeah.
came with it.
I felt like the aesthetic, like even the dragons looked, you know, magnificent. I thought the Golden Dragon was crazy
Yeah.
when we first get introduced, and I thought that I appreciate that they're trying to be more in line with the accuracy of what they say the throne is supposed to be.
You got
It looked
you
more
got Graydon
menacing.
Hammond Jr. chime in. He said that's more of an accurate picture of the throne.
It is. I think they intentionally tried to get those swords in, from George R. Martin's perspective. It's more of like a giant cascade of swords that you have to climb up through to get to the throne. So I think that's what they were trying to encompass with the swords on the steps. But even like you can see in that initial scene with Rhaenyra flying through on Syrax, like you see King's Landing being built. That first
Yeah.
tall tower, you can see scaffolding. So like a lot of that stuff is still being built, and then she flies right to the Great Dragon Pit, the big huge dome. That you see that in Game of Thrones season, I think it's season 8 or it might be 7, when they all gather with Cersei and Daenerys and Jon when they bring that the white to show basically
Yeah.
King's Landing, like, hey man, we got some shit going on up here in the north, but it's in ruins.
Right.
So you get to see it here in all its glory and how big it was and basically where they house the dragons. But I also like the fact that they kind of getting into the fact that a lot of these dragons look different. All the dragons don't look the same.
Yeah,
They look different. They have different personalities. Like Damon's dragon matches his personality perfectly. Because that Caraxes, That's one of the fiercest dragons that we'll see in this entire series. He's not the biggest, but he is one of the fiercest.
So, speaking of the look and the dragons and the CGI and all of that, Nikki Norwood chimed in from the start of the show. You could see that the prequel was more visually stunning than
Absolutely.
Game of Thrones, and
Absolutely.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Absolutely. That was all by
Yeah.
design. I think they went in with full intention of kind of showing Westeros in all its glory.
Oh, that's a good.
So we got Natalia Liza Rodriguez chimed in, and I didn't even notice this, but she was talking about Rhaenyra's dress, and she said that her dress was similar to Cersei's at the end with the black and gold.
That the dresses, again, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but the colors are really gonna be a big thing as far as the factions.
Yeah.
Black and that dark red with the gold highlights, those are the colors of House Targaryen. When you see
Right.
the sigil is black and red. So those are the house colors. So you're gonna see a lot of. I'm glad that she picked up on that because you're really gonna see those dresses and the colors of what people are wearing come into place as far as factions being chosen.
You saw Damon's
they
dragon was
banging
that
like
color,
Crystal
right?
Bloods.
Yeah.
Damon's dragon was black and red.
Caraxes the bloodworm, they call him. That long, slender body.
Okay.
And then that black and red, like I'm telling you, man, Caraxes, that's a motherfucker, man.
Listen, man. On a side note, Ray, you make me want to go read all the books tomorrow.
Bro, it's so much lore, it's so much that's left out. That's why I keep going back to the Great Council of 101. I fully was not expecting to see King Jaehaerys. Even though we saw him for all of 2 minutes, he didn't say a word. But to see King Jaehaerys and to know what he meant to the realm and where all of this, like there is no King's Landing without Jaehaerys. There is no city. There is no city watch. Everything that you see in place, other than the fact that the Targaryens run this shit, really comes from King Jaehaerys.
Mm-hmm.
They games like motherfucker.
Yeah, I think that even them breaking it down for the fact that Jaehaerys was on the throne for 60 years,
Yeah,
like all of that helped me as someone who has not read the books, but has watched the show to understand and have some framework going into this. Like, okay, this is why this is going on with the queen that never was.
right.
This is why the person who's speaking right now is the daughter of the king, and why there's still pushback against her potentially. Why he has to have an urgency for having a son and things like that. So it definitely I think that I'm hoping that they continue doing some narration. Like I hope that wasn't just to kind of establish the Jaehaerys story. I'm hoping that that's if not every episode, at least we get some background from multiple episodes. And if Rhaenyra is going to be the narrator.
Yeah.
So, man, it was a lot of it was a lot of things that stood out. Even though it wasn't a bunch of action and like it didn't even scratch the surface. What what we would see, but some of the subtle things stuck out to me. And then it was a couple things that happened that made me think about today, like after Damon and the Gold Cloaks went on a rampage through King's Landing, and you had the back and forth between Otto and Viserys about he sent Damon here, he sent him there, he sent him here,
right,
and it was Otto's idea to put him over the City Watch. And it backfired. We saw what happened, and then in the end, he pretty much took him off of that. He basically defunded the City Watch, and
not defunded.
Yeah, and it kind of made me think about today.
Hey,
they defunding the police. But
now I will say this, TK. Although he sent him back to the Vale, the City Watch and what Damon put in place is still firmly in place. And make no mistake about it, they are almost blindly loyal to Daemon Targaryen. So again, that's
Right.
going to come back into play, and that's an army by itself of 2,000.
Oh shit. Okay.
It's 2,000. Like, of course, they're not going to show it all in its entirety, but that's an army in totality of 2,000.
Well, you could tell they was blindly loyal to him. I mean, if you know, I mean, we saw the scenes, so I mean, that's clearly who their allegiance is gonna be with.
So somebody asked a question. Well, let me just say this real quick. Kendra said, "I'm going to get all the books." I feel that. I think I might
read. I'm telling you, especially I read this book, but technically I'm not gonna sit here and say I read. If anybody is like pressed for time like I am, I did the audiobooks. The audiobooks for me, because I did the audiobooks. I mean, like when I was working out, while I'm driving, like any little bit of free time that I had where I could pop my headphones in, it's the audiobooks, because you get the unabridged versions. So you get I think it's Roy Dotrice. He was one of the actors in Game of Thrones. He was like an old man with the Night's Watch. You wouldn't even know who he was. But when I tell you, this old dude does an incredible job of like bringing these books to life, because when you hear it, it's been like, so I basically did it backwards. I watched Game of Thrones in its entirety before I started listening to the audiobooks of A Song of Ice and Fire, which is a Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, Storm of Swords, so on and so forth. But I did listen to this audiobook, Fire and Blood, which is the basis for House of the Dragon. I listened to that one before watching this show, so I kind of switched it up a little bit. That's why I said I don't want to say too much, because I don't want to spoil anything. There's a lot of big battles, a lot of big events that are coming that I want to let unfold in the show and let people watch it. But it brings it to life in such a different manner. But I will say this, from the first episode, they sticking to that book, dog. They sticking to that book.
That's and that's good to hear, because we saw what happened with, again, season 8 and what they did to us. But before we move on, man, let me just throw this out there for those of you who are watching and listening and all of that. Do us a favor, if you're on Facebook, we need you to go join the goddamn Watchmen with No Chaser group. That's what we do a lot of our posts and stuff from, especially with this new season. Also, we got a new Twitter group called Watch Them Thrones. So y'all can do us that quick favor and join that for us, and we'll see what it do. So now we got let's hit the comments real quick, man.
Yeah.
So we had a question from Kendra Brown, and she said, even though it's set 200 years before Game of Thrones, do you think they would go deep into the storytelling to tie in Game of Thrones throughout the series?
I think we'll see some subtleties. I don't. Speaking of one, I'll shout one out. Did anybody notice the dagger that King Viserys had on his hip? That's that Valyrian steel dagger that the would-be assassin would have killed Brandon Stark with. That's that same dagger. So we're gonna see that dagger a few more times too. But that's one of those things that definitely ties back into the actual Game of Thrones show. That Valyrian steel dagger that supposedly Tyrion, hired this assassin for. It really turned out to be Littlefinger. Arya ended up killing Littlefinger with this same dagger. Arya ended up killing Night King with this same dagger. That's the dagger that you see on Viserys' hip.
Yeah, Kendra chimed in. I remember the dagger, the one that they used to try to kill Brandon with.
That's it, Kendra. That's that same dagger. So it's gonna be, I think, more subtleties that they use to try to tie into the show Game of Thrones. I don't think they'll, because like I said, it's a prequel. So they can't be like, oh, well, Daenerys ain't even thought of yet, other than, that intro. Because like I said, this is all hundreds of years before the setting of Game of Thrones. But you can still see like the houses. You can still see the Baratheons is some big motherfuckers. Like some big ass boys. Them goddamn Baratheons, some big boys.
Yeah.
You see Rickon Stark. who is at this point in time the Lord of Winterfell, who Ned has a son named for the same namesake. So
Hey, speaking of him, boy, he had a real lump in his throat. You
and
know,
he didn't want to kneel. That boy knee got bad, didn't it?
boy, he had a lump in his throat when it came time to show that fealty, boy. And
But
that's
that still goes back to that same thing, man. They do not want to yield to a woman. They don't want a woman on that throne. They don't
right.
think a woman can lead. And again, it takes it right back to that great council of 101. You got 1,000 lords in there, and nobody spoke in favor of Rhaenys. Like literally nobody. So and you can kind of see it in her face when she's standing there with Corlys. She didn't show like obvious disdain because shit, really you couldn't. They probably would have cut her fucking eyes out. But you could see a little bit of that emotion, like, damn, they really don't fuck with us like that. Like that's crazy.
Right. And we like you talked about, throughout Game of Thrones, all 8 seasons, and even now, the theme is, basically everybody in the 7 realms are members of the He-Man Woman Haters Club.
Boy, say that.
Like they can't stand women, and we saw that. But one thing that stuck out to me, because that's par for the course. That didn't stick out to me, But one thing that stuck out to me was the tournament, right?
Yeah.
And bruh, it went from 0 to 100 really quick. And it was, I honestly don't recall Game of Thrones being that messy, that gory. Maybe the Red Wedding.
Yeah. But even then, man, we just saw motherfuckers' face get hacked off.
Right. Like they skipped out on something, like even when Ramsay got fed to his dogs,
right,
by Sansa, it didn't really show. It showed the dog, grabbing, but it didn't just.
That's it. It kind of cut after that.
It just didn't get into Caleb with the comment. Caleb Faulkner said the tournament was extremely ghetto.
Man,
it was, dog. But
look, hey, they had that tournament on Francis Street, dog.
Dog, to see how violent it was, and I couldn't help but wonder to myself, like, this if this is the tip of the iceberg, this shit about to be wild.
And you see that conversation, that brief conversation between Corlys and Rhaenys right there, where she's like, "Oh," and the day turns ugly. It's almost like they expected it, to get to that point, but at the same time, they're like, "Damn, we really got to sit here and watch this bullshit while Queen Emma trying to have she's trying to have a baby right now. We out here watching motherfuckers get their face hacked off, So it just showed you the brutality of those tournaments. It starts out as jousting, but them cats be drinking too. They be full of that ale and that wine and mead, and so that blood get to rising. What Sir Jorah say in Game of Thrones? It's a beast that stirs in every man, and it comes out when you put that sword in his hand.
Right. Natalia came back with a counterpoint, which is a good one. She said Oberyn's head though, and Oberyn Martell did get. But what was that season? What 4?
It took us season 4 to get there.
Right.
I won't say though that there wasn't brutality, because I mean season 1. Episode 1, Ned Stark behead a motherfucker right in front of us, So
listen,
but I do believe though that there is intention in trying to make this and show more brutality in this, because this is the age that we in, So like, it was ain't no guns, ain't no quick deaths. Even like if I take this great sword and cut you from shoulder to neck, which is a common term used in the books, they always talk about being cut from shoulder to navel or shoulder to waistline.
Right.
You gonna feel that shit for a little bit, like you gonna die, and it's gonna hurt while you die.
So look, Don Jesse with the comment, I felt for the poor little squire that was throwing up. Before they put this comment in,
like that.
Nah, I saw, before this comment popped up, I was thinking that to myself, like, when I saw old boy in the corner throwing up, I was like, oh, this shit about to get really real.
bro. That they just like I said, just the fact that they dove into that at the great tournament, it's like you said, man, that lets you know where we're going. Like it's and that don't even scratch the surface. Like we hadn't even got into some of these epic battles that are gonna be had. Some of the dragon battles, like it's about to get lit, man.
I believe it, man. I I believe it. Um, so and this is a good point. I want to kind of talk about this. Caleb with the comment. He said, I like how this show seems to want to focus on the political aspects of it all. That's why we love Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
It's true. The the manipulation was definitely a huge factor in why Game of Thrones was what it was. The intelligent characters from Tyrion to Littlefinger to um, really so many of the characters that were um, the ones who spoke made the show really intriguing and worth watching because they were the one that kept you always on your toes. And this one has you on your toes early. Like even for those who may know the history, we still don't know how it's. I mean, how it's going to unfold in the show exactly or when. And so we still like that's what they did really well tonight. Is they built the anticipation. They created tension, uh, and they made me believe that because to me the last few episodes of Game of Thrones doesn't destroy what they created, which was a brilliant show. It was one of the greatest shows
it's
of all time, right?
it's dialogue and it's a lot of wordplay. It's a lot of word salad. But
Yeah,
that's an inside joke. But some people will get that, some won't. But it's a lot of dialogue and that lends to me. I'm gonna whoop you with this pen, pen and quill. I'm gonna whoop you with this sword. So
yeah,
other than whoop you with the sword, that leads to like Caleb said, like the political battles. That in and of itself is that's the Game of Thrones. Like yeah, you might be hard up with this sword, but do you know politics? So I'll take that back to my boy Rob Stark, the young wolf.
yeah.
Rob was a master tactician.
Hmm.
Rob was a master on the battlefield. Rob was undefeated on the battlefield. Rob died because he was a shit politician.
Yeah. I mean, he let
That's
his
what that.
guard down. I mean, like that the red wedding. I think for me, the red wedding was the episode that let me know I ain't know shit about Game of Thrones.
Man,
Like because the Starks were who I was rooting for from the very beginning. You know what I mean? I didn't know that was who I was supposed to root for. It
yeah,
was just who I gravitated towards on the show. I didn't know I was supposed to root for the North. I was just these were the people that I liked. I liked Rob Stark. I liked the Starks. I liked Jon Snow and the Red Wedding. Like literally shattered everything that I thought
yep,
I knew because up until that point, Rob Stark was that guy. He was him on the show.
man,
Like between
man,
between Rob and John, John wasn't even him yet. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like
yeah.
he just had him potential.
But even then, and I know I'm kind of sidetracking, going back to that. I'm gonna get back on House of the Dragon. But even then, they did a lot. They said a lot that led up to it. That if you go back and watch, you can watch all of season 3 and you can see it coming. Like, yeah, it's coming because you watched it. But if you hear the language, you hear the stuff that's being said between people, you can definitely tell it's coming. So I say that to say, do that same thing with House of the Dragon. Because a lot
Yeah.
of these conversations that are being had, a lot of this sidebar shit, this backroom shit, a lot of this word salad,
Hmm.
I'm telling you, man, motherfuckers finna eat.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like what Nikki said is on point. I think uh that ultimately like we're really about to see um uh we're about to see how the Game of Thrones was created.
Yeah. And Nikki made a really good point though. That first episode, it was slow. And then you see Bran climbing this tower.
Right.
Like, okay, who fucking in the tower?
Yes.
And it's brother and sister fucking. So that already encapsulates you. Like, okay, why they fucking?
Yeah.
Get caught, and you push the kid out the window. So it's like, now I have to keep watching.
Yeah.
So that funny story, you know, real quick with me, and that was that I didn't start trying to watch Game of Thrones until maybe season 4, right? You know, listen to you, Cot, and you know, some people at work talk about it. They finally talked me into watching it. And I watched that first episode, and that scene where the brother and sister in the tower fucking, and then they push a kid off the tower. I turned it off immediately, and I didn't watch it until season 7.
That's crazy. Yo, that's wild.
Like I'm like, damn, incest and they killing kids. This ain't for me.
Man, I knew at that moment that I was like, this shit different. That was when I saw that, I was like, oh.
And that's what got me. You know,
I didn't start watching this season 2.
Yeah, that's what really got me. The fact that it's like TK said, it's like, wait a minute, incest from jump, episode 1, and they threw this kid out the window. So you keep watching, and then even obviously later in the season, you get the beheading of Ned, and it's like, this is our main, what's my word, protagonist. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is by all accounts, this is the main guy. So like, even as you're seeing Ned about to be beheaded, you're like, okay, somebody finna shoot an arrow, or somebody finna come in on horseback. It's like, he ain't gonna die. Like, I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
I watched Ned get his head cut off. In the next episode, Joffrey went and pointed to his head on the spike, and I'm still like, that ain't Ned. He ain't dead.
Man.
Hey, there goes the goat. We got the goat on here.
You see him?
What's going on, my brothers? How y'all doing?
What's happening, man?
Oh man, can't complain, man. Shit, just trying to take in what y'all were talking about, man. Trying to finish these takeaways. So yeah, y'all good. Y'all continue talking though.
Glad to have you pull it up to the scene.
We haven't
Appreciate you.
Natalia, are you talking about like now in House of the Dragon, or like just overall we haven't seen this? Because I think like as far as the incest goes, because there's a lot of that shit in the book, there's only so much that I think that they're gonna tolerate on a TV show. Because even then, like, you have incest, and I know y'all say Damon out here looking like R. Kelly, but sleeping with teenagers was commonplace, you know, during the time. I'm not justifying it. That's some sick, nasty ass shit. So don't take that comment as me saying, oh, it's okay. But like during that time, like you had marriage betrothals happen at 13 and 14. And you had these marriages actually yield children. A lot of those teenagers you saw pass from child labor. You know, they get into that a lot. So there's a lot of teenagers that are wed to other teenagers. There's teenagers that are wed to men twice their age that are forced to bear children. So you get a lot of that coming from the book. I just don't think that they're going to be able to put a lot of that on TV and be able to justify it just because it's in the book.
So it sounds like Alabama.
You know what? The thing about the Game of Thrones,
I probably should have said that shit.
Damn.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
You are
I'm telling you though, the thing about Game of Thrones though, overall is we can be assured that we can expect the unexpected. Like what we, you know, even if we kind of have a sense of what's going to happen between what y'all have broken down, Leslie broke down in his story, like we know the way that they're gonna give it to us is gonna be different than we would have anticipated. Like, and so that's the part that I'm looking forward to. Is, I mean, we know that this is a history lesson essentially that we're watching, but I'm looking forward to watching history unfold. So,
but you know what though, man, like, and one of the things that I'm pretty sure that Carlton already kind of talked about was that a lot of this like shit is kind of unknown. So it's a bunch of stuff that is like kind of like, so the show creators can kind of fill in and play with to see exactly, like to kind of like make their own storyline of like what happened. Like so they have the 30,000 foot overview about what happened during this time period, but certain little like nuances and stuff, right? Like even the readers of Fire and Blood don't know about. So and so like so certain stuff is kind of surprising, just like with King Viserys, with him choosing, but having this choice and all that stuff, like in him kind of coming across as not this all virtuous person, just certain stuff like that, man. Like you can tell that they're trying to play the field of nobody is really good, nobody is really evil.
Right.
Type
because
of
what is good and evil in this time,
Exactly.
What is honor? What is dishonor? I feel you on that, Les.
Yeah, exactly, man. And so this is going to be I mean, like, bro, like the way that they kind of broke it down, man, like and I loved how they kind of like the slow build. I know that some Game of Thrones people may not like it. They may just say, listen, man, like we're trying to get straight to the battles, we're trying to get straight to the dragons. But to be honest with you, this is what Game of Thrones is about, right?
Yeah.
It's the political machinations, it's the backstabbing,
Absolutely.
it's the council meetings, it's the back and forth of like not only wartime and shit like that in during the crazy part, but also during the supposed times of peace. Because how do these people keep the peace? And when when the peace obviously kind of breaks down, and then we as the viewers know what happened or the seeds that laid the actual war that's about to take place, right? And so so I implore people to just have patience. If y'all not into the political stuff, but I promise y'all, all this shit is going to pay off. And the groundwork is being laid. Like that first episode, a lot of groundwork was laid up, man. Like, and I really liked it.
Les, can you speak to that a little bit more? Like I kind of touched on it briefly, but
Yeah.
like I talked about how the lines are already being drawn. What did you take away from some of just the bickering between not only Damon and Otto Hightower, Corlys versus Hightower? Because I spoke about Corlys and Damon having some backstory. What did you take away from some of already what we've seen with the political dialogue?
Yeah, and so with Damon, so Damon is this high head, right? And that's something that was kind of touched on, and that's something on in the books, and that's sort of to the core of his personality. He's this sort of he's almost a Targaryen, true and through, right? He's one of these type of people who you essentially like you kind of trust with your life, but you don't trust with your life, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And like, and he's he's battle tested. He's he used to do some work on the other continent. And so they've sent him off on previous occasions, like they mentioned in the first episode. But with this Hightower guy is interesting. And he's somebody who has been hand of the king on numerous occasions, right? This isn't his first stint on hand of the king. He was hand of the king actually.
He was hand of the king with Jaehaerys, right?
Exactly. He was hand of the king with Jaehaerys. Exactly. He was hand of the king with Jaehaerys. And so this is not his first rodeo. And so what he kind of he's laying his his breadcrumbs, because he comes across as this kind of noble, upstanding person. And Viserys touched on that, right? He was like, I trust you. He said, I essentially trust you. I trust Hightower more than I trust you. Well, that's kind of short-sighted on Viserys's part, because of the fact that even Hightower has his own political game that he's playing, which is he's laying, obviously, which I touched on even in my takeaways, is that he's setting his daughter up to try to court the newly widowed king, right?
Immediately widowed,
right? And he's just like, all right, Do what you got to do. Wear your mother's dress. Put on your best perfume. Go out there and be somebody, right?
Put that sexy old ass dress on.
Put that old ass dress on. You know what I'm saying? Go out there and be somebody.
Hey,
like do it for
Antonio
family, right?
Brown, put that shit on.
so kind of to touch on what you just said, Leslie, and y'all talking about the different beefs and obvious shit. But since you brought up, Otto sending Allison in there, I'm gonna hit you. I want your take on this question from Kendra Brown.
Okay.
Is anyone sensing a toxic relationship between Allison and Rhaenyra brewing, just like Sansa and Arya?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, shit. This is gonna be Sansa and Arya times 12.
Like a motherfucker.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, because of the fact that like once you see, I guess later on down the series, we're going to see that shit like bubbling to the surface, and it's going to be, and that's really going to what separate the kingdoms, which is basically this sort of battle, not necessarily. Well, like it's going to be between like the actual like supposed heirs to the Iron Throne, but it's really going to be between them two.
Yeah, it's the fact, like
yeah.
You got these factions, and you have the colors that are going to be decided based on the factions, and then you have the other families that are gonna put your black drum. I could not. But listen, man, like it's already being drawn, but you can tell like they're friends. They're almost, sisterly to a point, but they're on different paths, and those different paths are driven by their fathers individually.
Yep.
So I think more so than Arya and Sansa, you see that wedge driven, but it's not a natural wedge. It's not like, oh, they just, didn't get along. You could tell early on they actually love each other. They're best friends. Rhaenyra just talks about putting Allison on the dragon with her. Allison's like, look, I don't want to ride no fucking dragon, but I watch you ride that dragon all day, type shit. But you can already see that wedge being drawn, but that wedge is being drawn from another place.
Yeah, and that's real. And it's honestly, I mean, like, yeah, like you could tell it's even going to be worse. It could, because with Arya and Sansa, right? Like, you knew that eventually they get back on track, right? What I'm saying?
Sibling thing. That was like a sibling rivalry.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It was almost like two different, personalities sort of just clashing, but they were family, right? They're the starts.
This is much more than that brewing right now.
Yeah, this is some deeper shit. This is
going
to be
like what y'all said. I mean, but literally, she's trying to bone Sis's dad. You know what I mean? Like she's and get pregnant with her competition. So I mean, like when you really think about it like that, like I mean, it's pretty deep, and she is clear that her allegiance is to her father, first and foremost. Like,
I tell y'all what though, Queen Mama should have shut the fuck up when it came to her about to give birth that last time. She should have been like, you know what? I'll do it again.
Man, what?
Hey, listen,
I'll do it again.
Hey, listen.
She sealed her fate.
Watching. Shout out to my Dukes. Mama called that shit when she, basically when he was like, look, you got to make a decision. When she sat in the tub and said those words, my mama said, girl, you might just spoke your own omen. Like,
damn.
Shout out to my Dukes.
No line is a mistake in the show, yo.
Man, you know what though? And in the show, it made it feel like this kind of like touching moment, right? As if like they were fucking like it was this like romantic couples moment, like hi, they sharing this little gesture between each other. Meanwhile, King Viserys is like, oh, okay, all right, like okay,
yeah. I mean, he reminded me. Now, spoiler alert, and I can't remember the name of the show. I can't remember the name of Shonda Rhimes' show on Netflix.
The Bridgerton. It's about
Bridgerton.
Yeah.
In the second season, there's essentially a similar situation that occurs. Now, I think the man makes a different decision in that situation. I can't remember what happens, but it reminded me of that and made me think like, damn, during this time, like literally births had to be perfect, or they
Yep.
couldn't really, like anything goes wrong and everything can go wrong.
Well, the
And
same way that the young males were groomed to be warriors, kings, scribes, maesters, whatever. These women were groomed to be childbearers, courteous, beautiful, speak well, and that was all to be like, the ladies, maidens.
Yep.
And that's, again, we touched on this earlier. That's all that they were looked at as. Like that's your value as a woman.
that was wild. That's wild.
What was the quote that Sansa used to always say? A woman's weapon is a courtesy.
Yep. 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 That's it.
So basically, they're looked at as, this is what you bring to the table. You shut up. You had these kids. You produce heirs, and you can even see like when Queen Aemma is in that tub and she's having that conversation with Viserys, she apologizes for what she went through over the course of 10 years, losing 5 children in those different manners, the stillbirths, short-term pregnancies. She's apologizing to him for not producing an heir. Now, y'all got a whole beautiful daughter together.
Right.
And you're apologizing to this man because you've not given him a son.
Exactly.
Man, it was definitely deep to like I said, when she said, and I've lost 5 children in twice as many years, like that shit resonated with me just from the standpoint of like she been through it, and she's still trying to do it. She still don't know what this baby gonna be.
And
like,
they obviously don't have the science, the technology, the medicine.
Right.
Like, she's going through that labor and they give her milk of the pop. They basically in essence giving you heroin.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly.
They're giving you heroin during child labor to try to calm the pain, but even then they can only give so much without harming the child. So like this, basically you up to your own strength, So that's, they talk about the strength of the women and having children in this time. It's crazy though.
So Don Jesse mentioned that essentially it was supposed to be a choice between the two. So I remember I was watching the after credit, and that's what the showrunner said. But I remember during the actual show, I didn't take it as a choice between it. The Maester made it sound like that. It was like, listen, you can either save the woman or save the child. But I guess it was supposed to be this 50-50 where, and almost as if the mother was supposed to, had a good chance of dying either way, even if they didn't save the child. It was apparently that that the queen could have died either through either aborting the childbirth or giving birth to the child and bleeding out.
And I kind of think that's where they were going with that. Basically saying, look, you're gonna lose your queen either way.
Yeah.
Do you want to lose your queen and the child? Like, we can try to save the child, but the queen, there's basically no more that can be done for her at this point because the child was breached. So that's just.
But what, man? That's crazy though, man. That scene was wild, bro. That scene was wild.
Hey, man, that shit was so. That shit was hard to watch, man. Like I said,
that was the hardest scene for me to watch of all of the scenes.
Yeah.
You knew what was gonna happen to her when he was like, I love you, right?
And she was like, wait a minute, like what?
like she looked at him like, wait.
Like, what you mean?
I love you.
Like, what you talking about?
What you mean, bro? I mean, that was by far the hardest.
It got real when they slid her down off of that pillow. When they slid off that pillow, she was like, man.
She was like, fuck.
These motherfuckers here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, literally, we saw motherfuckers' heads get bashed in. We saw a motherfucker nuts get cut off. We saw some, some graphic things, but
beheading.
Beheading. Right, exactly. Hell yeah, goddamn like fucking Blue Lives Matter up in that
right.
Gold cloaks ass.
You know what I'm saying?
Gold lives matter.
Right. And like by far the one scene that I could not watch. I could not watch it. Like, for real.
Like that was tough, man. That was by far.
I watched The Boys, the show The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all know what that shit is like, but I couldn't watch that scene, man. Like I like literally recall like turning my head down.
That's why
as that scene took place.
I think that's strategically why they intertwined it with the tournament. Because you had the gruesomeness of the tournament with shit. They showing a tournament. And I'm like, ooh, cut his head off. And then they cut back to the childbirth, and I'm like, like, you know, so it's just a wild thing to take in, especially episode 1. You know, like a lot of people would say it's slow, but again, that set in motion. That one scene set in motion so much.
Yeah.
You know what? Like Nikki Noah, she made an excellent point, and you know, like, and I kind of touched on in my takeaways. I was just like, you know, like this is sort of, I mean, like this can play a lot of different. We could take a lot of different avenues when it comes to just actually like that childbirthing scene, along with like medical racism and what Black women have been talking about for generations, right? As far as like you know, birthing children and going, you know, like through like traditional medical services and shit like that, and how they are not
I treated the same.
Yeah, right, exactly. How they're not treated the same. You know, I mean, shit, even with my wife, with our second child, you know, like there was something to where they started talking about like a C-section automatically, right? And my wife was like, "No, I want to give birth, you know, like the natural way, right?" But they just like went straight to like the point of trying to do a C-section. You're like, "No, I want to do it the natural way." So y'all, you know, and so shit like that, man. Like you know, like we've all seen it or at least heard about it firsthand. And so to just, you know, witness that, man, that shit was, I mean, yeah, it was definitely something that was the highlight. It was the apex of that episode, right?
Hey,
Which
y'all,
is,
we
you
definitely
know,
women's voices on this panel. Like, I'm
yeah,
all
and
for
that was
that.
just something crazy, man.
We
You
have
know,
to
like,
have some women's voices on the panel.
yeah, right, facts. Yeah, yeah, man. But
TK, I think you're muted.
Yeah, we got Celestia, who's actually one of my favorite writers. She's dope with the pen, by the way. Go check out Celestial Holmes. She said, I hope y'all invite some ladies to the panel on future episodes. And to that, I say, see you next week.
exactly.
Nikki,
Facts.
Nikki.
Facts. We got room.
Nikki,
We
like,
saw a lot of comments. I think Gianna. Sorry if I'm messing your name up. I saw a lot of people with a lot
hit
of
me up,
knowledge. That,
message me on, through Black with No Chaser messaging, or if y'all friends with me, hit me up through messaging, and
We'll make it happen.
yeah,
it's gonna happen. It ain't nothing but a quick email invite.
Yep.
so
Facts.
so
But we definitely want. I can't say this enough, and I speak for every dude that's sitting here on this panel. We definitely want the female aspect, the female point of view, to all of this, because even though they don't give a damn about females, that don't mean we do. But we want to hear y'all take on all of this, because that's how you learn, that's how you grow, and all of that. So yeah,
we
And
definitely
be up.
the treatment of
CJ
women
up.
on this show, even though you can tell like they're undervalued, undermined, and not, that's a very intricate part of the story. Like I've gone back to the Great Council of 101 several times. Like I said, man, it just goes to show how much it was all about what they say, having a cock. If you didn't have a cock, you wasn't shit.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, like, and this was the same theme, you know, like during the original Game of Thrones show, right? Which was this, like, these women who were, you know, like just being beaten down in this male dominated society, slowly rising up as the seasons went along, right? And you can see some of the same kind of beats in the same show kind of play out a little bit. You know, and with the ascension of like Rhaenyra's being the heir to the throne, that's already going to cause, you know, I mean, a lot of tension within, right, like this entire series. And you already, you know, like as soon as you see that shit, you know how this is all going to play out. You see all the little like chess pieces moving. You see Hightower and his daughter, and you see like Rhaenyra and her ascension to the heir. You know, rightfully so, to be quite frank. I don't, which is kind of crazy that it took for this motherfucker's wife and son to die in order for him to realize that
That's
too
the
little,
way
too
he should
late,
have been
right?
moving the whole
Exactly.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you
But
see
even
all.
still, Les, I believe that was a big chess piece that Otto moved by even saying, because I mean, obviously he has this thing with Damon. He doesn't want Damon to have any power. He don't want Damon anywhere close to the court, obviously. But that was a big power move for him to move that chess piece and say, hey, how come, King's eldest daughter or eldest.
It was.
That
It
was a
was.
chess piece because he knows exactly how that will be received, and then you immediately see him send his daughter. So he knows what could come of that,
Mm-hmm. Right.
It was, man. It was. You're right. And to be honest with you, like if you started throwing some theories off the wall, you can even say that. Listen, would you be surprised if there's an internet theory that said, Hightower poisoned the queen mother in order for her to die?
He knew that stuff was happening too immediately. He coming back during the tournament, whispering to people like immediately as it was happening.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, and so for as genuine as he really came across, right? He came across as one of these, like, kind of guys that, I'm just giving this practical advice, which he was giving practical advice, but he also had this, like you were just saying, he had this chess piece. He had this this chessboard that he's playing and that he set his daughter up to be essentially his queen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Everything he said and did was duplicitous as hell. Every single thing, dog. Like,
I didn't like Otto. Definitely was giving me I don't trust this nigga vibes. Like,
like fucking Littlefinger shit, right?
I don't trust that motherfucker. From the first scene when he cut his eyes at Corliss, I was like, oh yeah, I don't like this motherfucker right here. This a motherfucker I don't like. Like, it was I got from that point on, you know what I'm saying? He was, you know what I'm saying? He was in the hot seat with me. So
he definitely would be a conservative out of Florida or Texas if this nigga was here today.
DeSantis head
ass. It took him no time to snitch on Damon about that speech in the brothel.
Like, bruh, no time. He was like great.
Council meeting for that shit. He got
and when he said
out of bed, talk about that shit.
And when he said he confirmed it with 3 other people or whatever, like, bro, that was so Littlefinger, dog.
Mm-hmm.
He got his pawns. He got them. Yeah, he got out there already.
That was a mixture of Littlefinger and Varys.
You're right. Hell yeah, you goddamn right. Yeah, like Lord of Whispers, and then Littlefinger, he got his fucking pawns and the brothels and all that shit like that.
But the craziest part is he's in a higher position than both.
Yeah,
this motherfucker he's hand of the king. So like the hand speaks with the king's words, in this time period. So like this motherfucker, he is powerful as power gets. Like there's only the king above him.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely he's definitely one of the ones that I got my eyes on for the whole series, and I'm sure that they wanted it that way. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did something manipulative to lead to the queen's death, or if he played a role in that some type of way.
I bet you if I Google that shit, I
felt like she was in there.
I would find some theory that like that has his hands in the queen's, or at least the queens of the son, or the babies of death, some shit, right? Even if it's like something where he was, slowly poisoning the queen or some shit, some stupid shit, right? Who knows? Yeah,
Hey, the comments are wild, dog.
They wilding in the comments.
They going, hey.
Gina said, Otto gonna learn that snitches get stitches like punk bitches.
Yeah, but you know what though? Otto is the type of person who succeeds in usually in this type of world, right?
We're gonna see Otto well into this story.
Exactly, because he's the type of person who succeeds in this environment. Yeah. Like the people who are willing to do whatever it takes to win at this game, usually the ones who succeed. And that's what I love so much about Game of Thrones.
The Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Amen to that.
So, to kind of put a bow on all of this. Well, first of all, let me say this: everybody who watching, please go to our Facebook page and IG and check out Leslie's takeaways of episode 1. You know, if you know who he is and what he does, then you
King
are,
of takes.
yeah, he the takeaway king, man. So y'all know y'all in for some funny. It's funny and it's informative and just fucking crazy. So make sure y'all
All of the
go check
above.
that
Yeah.
out. But
Mhm.
I want to hit each one of y'all, kind of to close it out a little bit. Um, Either tell me, you know, what you like most about this episode and what you looking forward to, or what you think will happen in episode 2. I'm gonna start with you, CJ.
Okay. Um, as far as this episode is concerned, I just like them setting it up and allowing us to have anticipation about what types of things we have to look forward to. As somebody who has not read the books, but did follow the series very closely, uh, it allowed me, as someone who is kind of ignorant to those things, to know, if you are familiar with Game of Thrones and you know what to listen for, know what to watch, then you know that there are some things that you're going to anticipate. With that being
Yeah.
said, things that I'm looking forward to is the obvious schism between Damon and Viserys and what that means for Rhaenyra. I'm looking forward to the dynamic between uh, the Queen Who Never Was and Rhaenyra. Uh, I'm looking forward to the intellectual jousting that's taking place between the Sea Snake and Otto. Looking forward to seeing how Otto moves in general, and how his daughter moves as far as the king is concerned. Um, and overall, I'm looking forward to the actual game being played. Like I feel like they just put the pieces on the table tonight,
Yeah.
and I don't even know if the moves have really started yet. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to episode 2 when the moves start.
All right, I agree with that. What about you, Leslie?
Uh, what I'm looking forward to the most is the pace. I feel like that they're hopefully right because based on what I've just watched this first episode, this was really a small part of Fire and Blood, and so like they even took like I think maybe like 20 minutes of the actual episode was probably like a fucking paragraph like worth of actual like book material, and so they've stretched out a lot of this in order to create their own show, and it shows me patience, which is something that was lacking in seasons 8 and 7 of the original Game of Thrones. And so when I say the pace, I I court and I welcome a slower pace with this show, right? Like I want them to take their time, as much time as possible, in order to build up to these key events that we'll see, and so the payoff is that much more gratifying and exciting, right? And I feel like that when Game of Thrones left a pretty bad taste in our mouths, even if like there was some very dope ass highlights, but overall I thought that the pace and the actual and taking their time in order to build up to the like the climactic parts were missing in those final 2 seasons, especially the final season. And so I love the pace that they're going on right now, right? And I hope that they continue that until like seasons 1 to like I think that with this pace now they can probably get like fucking like at least 4 seasons out of this goddamn book. Like, and this is just volume 1 of Fire and Blood, and George R. R. Martin hasn't even released volume 2. And so I'm excited about the pace, and I hope that they continue on this journey.
All right. What about you, Carlton?
I mean, I wish you would have asked me second because Les ass stole my whole entire. But I mean, down to the word. Because I was gonna say pace. I was literally gonna say the pace.
I'll be damned.
You could tell. You could both tell that me and Leslie have read the book and are interested to see just how it unfolds. When I think about the pace of it, I'm just interested to see how quickly the factions are going to be formed from what we just saw in episode 1. Because you can see it. You can see the factions and the lines already being drawn.
Yep.
But also, I'm a really huge dragon geek, y'all. So like, I'm interested to see the pacing of when we get to see some of these other dragons of the series. I love the fact that they showed us 2 right from the back. 2 of the main dragons of the story, along with 2 of the main characters, 2 of the main riders of the dragons. I will say this: we also see another dragon rider in episode 1, although we don't see the particular dragon, so I won't spoil it. But we do see another dragon rider right here in that first episode. They just didn't show the dragon of that rider. They didn't speak of who's going to ride, said dragon. So I'm interested in how quickly we're going to get to see that, how they're going to show some of these battle scenes that are going to come. Are we going to see any of that in season 1? Is that going to be some of the epic stuff that we see in season 2? I think I read somewhere that they paced this out to be, I think, 3 to 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So I do think that we
which makes sense.
Facts. But I think it's gonna play out over the course of 3 or 4 seasons. So I'm interested to see how and when we get to see stuff. Like even Rhaenyra and Allison are young, so we get to see an older version of them.
Yep.
You see that in the preview, so I'm not telling too much because when they show the previews of the episodes to come, you see their older versions. So I mean, like, are we gonna get to episode 2 and get a 10 years later kind of thing, or are they gonna pace out? Are they gonna pace out the younger versions a little bit more?
Yeah, that's good.
So, as y'all so eloquently put it, all of these different things. So I really can't touch what y'all said. So let me tell you what I want to goddamn see. I want to see unadulterated violence, nigga. That's what I want to see. I'm cool with the political. I'm cool with the moves. I want to see all of that. But I'm here for the dragons. I don't care who it is. Dungeons and Dragons, Dragon Heart, How to Train Your Dragon. Dragon. It don't matter with me. Syrax and foe.
You're a wild boy, man.
That's what I'm here for.
I feel that. Since we talk about that, I'm also looking forward to hopefully seeing if they're going to give us some of the origin story behind the White Walkers. Since they already alluded to him. Wondering if we get to see some of that.
Yeah.
Maybe not this season, but at some point.
Kendra said, "I ain't gonna lie, Damon's dragon is fire." No pun intended.
Caraxes is a motherfucker, man.
Yeah,
when I say Damon's personality, his
match
in battle, him being a warrior,
matches that motherfucker.
He got the right motherfucking dragon, yo.
Facts.
I promise you, he got the right. Like, you can almost see it in him. Like, Caraxes just had a different look to him, a different feel, a different vibe. That motherfucker almost looking at you like, I wish a motherfucker would.
That motherfucker's a goddamn blitzkrieg of fucking dragon fighting. that nigga fucking go.
And I think, what did they say? We're going to get 17 total dragons in this series. So, I mean, that's a lot of
fighting.
That's what Gerard tweeted.
I don't know how many we're going to get in this initial season, this first season. But I can imagine seeing a few of these dragons come in. Because like I said, we already saw Damon at the end of his episode take off on Caraxes. We see it at the beginning of this episode. You see Rhaenyra come in on Syrax. But like I said, there's another dragon rider in this episode. I won't speak on it because I want y'all to be like, God damn. But we saw a dragon rider in this episode. They just didn't show the dragon, or they didn't talk about it. So
yeah, man. So I'm really excited about everything, man. I'm not gonna even lie, dog. I'm really just looking forward to anything better than season 8. That's what I'm goddamn looking for. But this is a great episode, man. This is a great conversation. Great opening to a series. Um, I appreciate you, CJ, Carlton,
Yes, sir.
and Leslie. You guys are a Game of Thrones thesaurus and encyclopedia. You are Encyclopedia
Hey,
Britannica niggas.
one more thing. Okay, I will say about them dragons. Did y'all see the fucking size of Valerion's skull, dog? Like, comparatively to them standing in front of that skull, think about like Game of Thrones with Daenerys and Jon standing in front of Drogon, and the comparison between how they look compared to his, living skull, obviously, But we get this skull. That's the skull of Valerion that they're standing in front of when Viserys is talking to Rhaenyra about her succession and her becoming queen. Valerion was a big motherfucker, yo. Like that, by all accounts, was the largest, fiercest dragon in this whole shit.
Well, I definitely, like I said, I think that's the most exciting part, though, is seeing the dragons, man. So, that's gonna bring the dragons was gonna bring a lot of people in who's not, really part of the who not really truly invested in it, like a lot of people. That's what's gonna bring a lot of people in, and then once they get into the intrigue and the political shit and all of that, that's what's gonna keep them. So
yeah,
I'm definitely looking forward to it. But before we get out of here, man, I do want to say thank you to all of you who have participated in the comments, who watching live with us, who's hitting us up. This is just the beginning, man, and we really looking forward to going on this experience with all of y'all. So I really and truly do thank you all. And I'm sure CJ and Carlton and all the Black Widow Chaser family feel the same way. Without you, none of this is possible or worth it. So thank you all. But do me one favor, if you can, if you're not following us already, follow us on Twitter at Be Black No Chaser. You can also follow us on Twitch and YouTube at Black Window Chaser TV. And of course, we on IG, Black Window Chaser, as well as Black Window Chaser on Facebook. So again, I appreciate, all of you for tuning in. And we looking forward to putting it down next week. And the ladies who talked about wanting to get on, hit me up and we will make it happen. Because we want to hear from you live. So we with it if y'all with it.
For sure.
CJ, you got anything you want to close us out with?
Man, I just look forward to this journey with y'all. I look forward to this journey with the tribe, the audience that listen tonight. Thank y'all for tapping in with us. This is our first time doing this. You can join the community on Twitter. You can join the communities on Facebook, like Tyrus talked about earlier. This is gonna be a lot of fun. And the first time we did it, it became a huge phenomenon in itself. And I think this time around, with us catching it at the very beginning, is gonna become even more than that. So invite your friends, invite anybody that you know who loves to be a part of this fandom. Watch Them Thrones is gonna be here, and we're gonna be here for the duration. And you watched it tonight, but you can participate as well. Shoot Tyrus a message, shoot us a message, and we'll make sure you get up here and your voice will be heard. So thank y'all very much. Think Black, live Black, unapologetically always, bro.
Oh yeah,
sir.
So with that being said, on behalf of our departed compadre Leslie Macklemore, the king of takeaways, on behalf of Carlton White, the maester and the ruler of the Citadel's library of Game of Thrones on this panel, on behalf of CJ, the boss, and me, I'm just a nigga who like to be here. We thank you guys for tuning in, and we look forward to doing this next week.
Gang.
And like CJ said,
I can't wait till next week, yo.
Live and be black unapologetically. So appreciate y'all. We'll see you on episode 2.
Peace, y'all.
Gang.